Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and after a very successful weekend for Celtic in domestic action, which sees us through to the first cup final of the season, our attention now turns back to the UEFA Champions League as we welcome RB Leipzig of Germany to Celtic Park. Can we build on that confidence boost we got in Italy a few weeks ago? We'll soon see. So let's talk about that. If you haven't already, please make sure to hit like and subscribe. It would be much appreciated. We're back in business today with this match preview for tomorrow's game. Of course, we'll be covering it all, the opposition, ourselves, previewing every aspect of the game that you need. So if you do enjoy, please go down below, hit both those buttons. It's absolutely free. And of course, you can become a channel member if you choose to, using the link in the top line of the description. But we've got a few things to cover in a busy week for Celtic as we get towards another international break. This is the biggest step of them all though. We're back at home in the Champions League. Very exciting. So here is a reminder of what the Champions League table looks like going into this game. Celtic sitting 20th place right now with a win, a draw and a loss. One of each in every kind of result. Above teams like Bayern Munich, AC Milan, Atletico Madrid and some other big hitters. Celtic have had a decent start to this campaign, a place where I think we're all pretty happy with right now. We're inside that top 24 where you're aiming to be come the end of the league campaign. I honestly, I'm chuffed with how we've started. I thought that after the opening 4 games, Celtic would have 3 points. When I looked at the opposition that we had, I thought they would have 3 points after 4 games, and the chasing would come after those initial 4 games because they were the hardest. The hardest run we had was Dortmund, Atalanta and Leipzig. There wasn't a tougher 3 consecutive games than that. So I thought we'd have 3 points after the opening 4. So for us to have 4 points after the opening 3 really does feel like a better place for us than where I initially thought we'd be. So I can't complain with it. It was a really much needed confidence booster in that last game against Atalanta, and that's what we need to bring into the game against Leipzig tomorrow night. Put it this way, the last time we played a German team, things did not go to plan, and after that there was an overwhelming feeling of doubt. I think a lot of Celtic fans had us written off, and rightly so. You know, it's not nice to watch your team lose 7-1, and that would drain you of all confidence, but I think there was a real sort of over-exaggeration of where we were as a side, as a club in this competition. And there was still hope, and I think we really showed that in Bergamo a couple of weeks ago. So we head into this game full of confidence. We obviously come off the back of a huge 6-0 win against Aberdeen at the weekend. And Leipzig, on the other hand, well, for as good as a start to the season they've had, things aren't rosy in the Champions League, and the weekend didn't really go well for them. Let's just have another quick look at the Champions League table right now. Leipzig have had a horror start to the competition with 3 losses out of 3 to start their campaign. It's been a real disappointment, but let's be fair to them, 3 very tough games. Not quite the draw that Celtic have been handed. Leipzig so far have had to play Atletico Madrid, Liverpool and Juventus, 3 of the biggest sides in the whole competition. You know, it really doesn't get much tougher than that. And listen, all 3 games they've been very unlucky in. If you watched them play against Liverpool a few weeks ago, they were really good. If you watched them play against Juventus, they gave them a battle, and the same with Atletico Madrid. This is a good side who've just came up against sides who've maybe just edged them on the night through a little bit more quality in specific moments. This is still a very good team. The Bundesliga table as it stands right now, Leipzig sits second, 3 points behind league leaders Bayern Munich with a pretty good start to the season, 6 wins, 2 draws and a loss. However, the timing of said loss, well, it couldn't be much better. Well, depending how you look at it, I would say it couldn't be much better for Celtic. Some people think it might be what pushes Leipzig on to a result tomorrow night, but their most recent league game, a 2-1 defeat to Borussia Dortmund in the Westfalenstadion. At least us and Leipzig share something in common this season, that we've both lost in Dortmund so far. The difference being that theirs was only 2-1 and ours was 7. A pretty impeccable start though for Leipzig domestically. At the beginning of the season, they were my pick to win the Bundesliga. I still think they could win the Bundesliga. Bayern have been very, very good. I think Leipzig will be their closest challengers this season, and the numbers so far in the opening 9 games would go to prove that. This is a much different Leipzig side from what we faced 2 years ago. We've faced them a number of times in the last few years, but 2 years ago, Marco Rose was just through the door, and it was sort of the beginning of what he was trying to do at Leipzig, and I think now that's actually taking shape. There's been a lot of development in those 2 years. 2022 we faced them. Ange Postecoglou was in charge of Celtic, Marco Rose was in charge of RB Leipzig. Well, that's, changed on one hand. Brendan Rodgers is here now, but Marco Rose is still at Leipzig. But things are really taking shape now. I think that he's started getting his team together. His system is a lot more fluid, a whole lot more functional than what it was. And that's quite scary, because if you remember how they played against us, especially in that game in Leipzig, they cut through us at times. They were scary. And back then they had a few big hitters that they don't have now, the likes of Christopher Nkunku, who is gone. Timo Werner was still playing for them at the time and was a very important part of what they were doing. A couple of other players who have departed. But what they've done is replace them with players who I would argue suit the system better. Players who might not be on paper better players, but players who suit what Marco Rose wants to do a whole lot better, and for that reason a lot more effective at what they do, which is scary. They sort of set up in a 4-4-2 Leipzig, which doesn't really happen nowadays in football, but it's a 4-4-2, very different from what you'd be used to seeing maybe back in the early 2000s or the 90s. This is a Marco Rose 4-4-2, which takes some traditional aspects of the 4-4-2, having players up front like Benjamin Sesko who can be used for their physicality and their height, but by also bringing in the modern aspects of wingers who will cut inside, wingers who will do things differently from a traditional winger in a 4-4-2. Right now they have stars all over that park. Antonio Nusa, the left winger, it's got to be chaos to try and handle him. He, for me, could be one of the next big stars in Europe. Benjamin Sesko, the striker who we spoke about a moment ago, already enjoying a fantastic season, 7 goals in his 13 games for Leipzig. Players like Haidara in the middle who are very, very good at breaking up the play and just getting involved both from an attacking and defensive point of view. This is a team that has stars all over, but Celtic can definitely handle it. Yesterday I called this Celtic team a very special Celtic team, and I called them that for a reason. I gave them so much credit and praise for a reason, and now it's about translating that into a performance tomorrow, which is one that we can leave Celtic Park being proud of. Listen, I don't expect Celtic to win tomorrow. Christ, I don't even expect us to draw tomorrow. Realistically, Leipzig should be winning the game, but if we learned anything from our performance in Atalanta, it's how to deal with these sides. The ruthlessness of what Atalanta tried to do in Bergamo was dealt with so well by Celtic, in particular the back four. And that's going to have to be the same tomorrow. So I don't expect to see a lot of changes from how we played against Atalanta, the team selection from Atalanta, and a few other aspects of that performance. I think that we'll see a lot of that. But it's about creating a bit more because we're at home. So I mentioned that hybrid performance between the two that I would like to see, between our domestic attacking ruthlessness but our defensive performance of what we've seen in Italy. If we can find a good merger of those two styles of play, we've got every chance of getting something tomorrow. The big one for me, we need to look out for is Benjamin Sesko. We've got to take care of him, and I think it'll be, we'll come on to my team prediction, but spoiler, I think it'll be Vickers and Trusty. We need to look after him. And whether or not they play the two up front at Celtic Park tomorrow or not, obviously that makes it a bit more difficult. You've got two of them to look after. We've got to look at Sesko for his presence, his physicality, his finishing abilities, his pace as well. You know, he's a big guy. He's also a fast guy, you know, so we've really got to do our homework on him and make sure we take care of him in the right ways, take all precautions to ensure that he isn't getting left open in silly areas or that he's not free for a header. He will punish Celtic should he be given the chance. So just You know, I remember when we went back to Atalanta, just to go back to that game for a second, I remember there was times where I was thinking, why is Valley or Johnson not going and hugging the wide player? Why is he not getting out to him? Why is he not pressing him for the cross? Because you've also got to find that balance in between, you know, eliminating the threat from out wide, but certainly just voiding the threat altogether of what's happening in that penalty area in and around the 6 yard box. There is a way that Celtic will play tomorrow night to try and eliminate these threats. They've got to take care of guys like him. So yeah, it's about finding, for me, for Celtic, it's about finding that mix between what we do domestically and what we've done in Atalanta that I think will give us the best chance of getting any points tomorrow. There is some good news though when it comes to Leipzig. They are missing a couple of big hitters going into this game tomorrow. Here's their injury list. The big one, Xavi Simons, he is out. He's been out for a few weeks now and he will continue to be out beyond this Celtic game with an ankle injury. David Rom, the left back, who did play in the tie in 2022, is also out. Javier Schlager, great central midfielder, he is missing. He's been missing for a long time, to be fair. And Castello Lukba, he is out as well with muscular problems, which was sustained over the weekend. So some big players missing for Leipzig. Nonetheless, still a very good team we're going up against. How do Celtic match that? So for the starting 11 prediction then, today I'm going with the team that I would play. Usually I make this a prediction and I try and pick the team that I think Brendan Rodgers will go with. Today I'm disregarding that entirely. I'm going with what I would play. You'll notice there's some big calls here, some that you might not necessarily agree with, but I'm going to try and justify the big calls. Starting with the centre halves, I'm going for Vickers and Trusty. I'm going for the American partnership at the back. Why? I think because at the weekend they showed why. I think that Brendan Rodgers himself knows that this is his ideal starting centre-half partnership. There's a reason he spent £6 million on Austin Trusty, and it's no disrespect to Scales. Scales is in a very fortunate position right now where, you know, through injuries and just general rotation with the amount of football we play, we're going to see plenty of interchanging between the centre-halves. We're going to see different partnerships. We're going to see a lot of minutes shared. This does not spell the end of Liam Scales' beautiful run as a Celtic player. He's had a great season, he's barely put a foot wrong, and some people might have him starting in this game because of that. But I can't look past the performance of both Vickers and Trusty at the weekend, the way that they played together. They should be allowed to grow. This is the trickiest game they will face with our known schedule right now. And if they don't play and start this game together, then when do they get the chance to play in a game of this magnitude? I don't know. Because by the time we play Aston Villa, they might have already qualified. They might be playing the boys. You know, and we don't know if we'll qualify for the next round. This is a huge game, and if this is where Celtic truly see their centre-half partnership going, they need to be given a chance to start together tomorrow night. So I'm going with those two. And the weekend I thought they played brilliantly. Big Trusty's coming on to a right good game. The patience, if you were with me and being patient with him, you'll be looking forward to the prospect of him playing tomorrow. Just like who I've got at left back, and I'm going for Alex Valley once again. If you have been patient, then you will be enjoying his emergence as a Celtic player, and the importance of what he does as a Celtic player is shining even brighter week in, week out. Why am I going with him over Greg Taylor, even though Taylor has much more Champions League experience? Because I've seen what happened to Greg Taylor in Dortmund. And I don't think we can afford to let that happen again. I don't know who Leipzig will start on the right-hand side. Most likely Baumgartner. But Karim Adeyemi had Greg Taylor inside out all 45 minutes of that first half. It was one of the worst 45s I've seen from a Celtic player. And that's not me trying to bury Greg Taylor. But I just don't think we should take that risk again. Alex Valley, for me, should start tomorrow night. That's why. That is my reasoning for it. It's as simple as that. And I guess the thing is, if he's having a poor first half, you can change it at half-time. You can do the reverse of what happened in Dortmund. But for me, I'm going Alex Valley. I thought he played really well in Atalanta as well. There's no reason for me why he shouldn't get another chance tomorrow night. He's my starting left back. Midfield three, the strongest midfield three for me. Once again, I'm not going to sound like a broken record and tell you why. But it's McGregor, Hatate, and I was about to say Bernardo and Engels for me in that midfield three. Great games at the weekend from all three of them. And for the front three, the big question is, Who joins Maida and Kuhn? Because they two they're a given. They're on the team sheet. We all know that. Should Ida start again though, so that we can try and replicate a bit of what we've done in Atalanta? Should Kyogo start after scoring at the weekend? I'm going for Adam Ida. I just think that he was so influential in what we were trying to do in Bergamo that it would make sense to play him again. And we wouldn't have been able to play that way if we had Kyogo up front. So once again, this isn't me throwing disrespect on Kyogo, who's obviously a great option. I don't mind if he starts. But I think that you can't play the football that we played in Atalanta with Kyogo up front. And that could be our downfall. So I am going Adam Ida again for this European game. It's a great headache to have out of who starts between the two. But that's my team. That's it. They're my big calls. And you might not agree, but I think that we just need to do a lot of the same basic principles that we got right in Italy tomorrow night at Parkhead, and we have every chance of winning this game. Realistically, Celtic don't win this game tomorrow night. I don't mean to sound like a pessimist. You know, we've beat them at Parkhead in the past. Very different Leipzig side that we beat. It was in a different competition as well, if you remember. It was the Europa League. But we've got every chance of beating them. I understand the quality that we're coming up against tomorrow night. It's a side who've conceded very little goals. 5 goals they've conceded in the opening 9 games in the Bundesliga. So a top team from a defensive point of view and an attacking point of view as well. You've got all of that to deal with. But we can do it if we just get the small things right. If we avoid those silly errors and mistakes, which I feel like we eliminated completely in Atalanta. I don't remember any coming off the top of my head. A couple of stupid things that we done from a defensive point of view that we got away with, but not necessarily like passing the ball straight to them or anything like that. So get the fundamentals right and you've got every blooming chance, Celtic. Please. Anyway, take care. I've been recording. Do you know how many times I've tried to record this? It's just went wrong so many times. I don't know why. I'm off a bit today. I'm off by a half beat and it's irritating me. So I'm away. Like and subscribe. I'll see y'all next time.